last 7 years or so, I have tested a variety of ways to cut finger joints or box joints. So what I'm going to show you in this video, quite honestly, might be one of the most efficient and best ways that I have found so far. This is the Jessem Box Joint Jig. Now, the great thing about this jig is that if your router table has a standard track that sits roughly, I think it's 4.2 to 7.7 inches away from the cutter, that falls within that range, this will be compatible with your router table. Now, I personally have the Jessem router table. It's a change that I made about a year ago now, which I really need to do a video on this because it is long overdue. So if you're interested in seeing a video on this router table, especially as somebody who previously owned the Inca router table, let me know down in the comments section below. I've been messing with this a lot lately, and I've had an opportunity to kind of work out the kinks and the bugs and show you how I overcame some of those things. And I just want to show you how wonderful of a quality this can do. Now, before I bring you in close to show you all of the features and do some demos, I want to talk briefly about the way that I have always found box joints to be the best. Always when using a router bit. It gives you perfectly square, clean cuts, and it just turns out better. I've done it on the table saw, I've done it on the Origin. Origin's another great example of what works, but an Origin is a much larger barrier to entry as opposed to if you already have a router table, by getting this jig, it will give you super fast, repeatable, perfect results every single time. So let me bring you in close. I'm going to show you everything about this. I'm going to do some demos. I'm going to show you how you can get this thing dialed in. But honestly, like, this is such a great design, and I really wish that I would have had this a long time ago. I will get this in different angles to show you all the things that I'm talking about, but really this is just going to kind of show you the operation. You can see here I've got my router bit coming up through the actual jig itself. We have a guard right here. We have our fence, which I'll talk a little bit about. And then this is a plate that attaches to your router table via the track, and then it slides back and forth on that base. As I'm sure you have guessed, this is going to operate back and forth here, making all of your cuts. The way that you index it is right here on this pin. So before I get into kind of how it operates, I'll talk about some of the things that come with the set. So everything that you see here, you have this fence here, which comes with it, which is a Baltic birch. This is for a 1/4 inch. The demo that I'm going to do today is a 1/4 inch, but it will also come with 2 additional keys, being 3/8 of an inch and 1/2 an inch, and it will come with 2 additional fences. As you see here, I've already done some tests with a 1/2 inch. I don't have a 3/8 inch bit, which is why I haven't been messing with that one too much yet. And then today for the demo, we're going to be using 1/4 inch. Now I brought you to the back side to show you how this actually attaches. So if I push this forward, it stops because it's locked in place with these pins. If I lift these pins up, it's going to slide over these right here. So now if I wanted to put this on, I wouldn't be able to. I'd have to slide the pins up, but that's what stops it from over traveling, basically. This slides right off. If we look at the bottom, there's some rollers that are in here that will actually allow this to glide back and forth very smooth. Now, if I wanted to slide this back on, I line that slot up right here, pull it back. It stops, obviously, because it's hitting these. Lift these pins up, bring it back. It's now locked in place. It's not going to move anymore, and this is the travel as far back as it goes. And with that being said, I believe you can fit up to approximately 4.5 inches in here, so that would be really handy if you had really thick material, or if you were gang cutting multiple pieces, so you could batch out multiple pieces for, say, a drawer or a box at the same time. Now let's just go through the entire process of setting this up. First thing you want to make sure is that your router bit is all the way down. I already have this on there. You've already seen how it comes on and off. So I'm going to slide this on until roughly the bit is centered in what you see right here. I'm going to make sure, in my case, that this is pressed all the way back. Remember, I was telling you, depending on the length from your bit and how you have some adjustability and what size router tables this can be used on, it does have that flexibility to move forward and backward. I'm just going to go all the way to the back. I'm not going to lock anything down yet. because I'm going to raise my bit to where I know the radius of that bit is going to be able to touch the front portion of that slot. Now, the way that I found this works really well to get this thing centered is I can just pull back on this, give it a little bit of a shake, but because that is a radius and the slot is a radius, it'll naturally center itself. So I'll do that, put a little bit of pressure on it, lock down my handles here, and now I know the bit is centered. And why that's important is because everything with a finger joint is dependent on the distance from the cutter head to the key. And we will talk about that because I'm about to show you just how tight of a fit it's going to be when it's just perfectly centered. So that's all you have to do to set it up. It's done, it's ready. Next thing we do, take the material that we want to use. In this case, this is some 1/2-inch walnut. We want to raise the bit to be just ever so slightly above. I prefer to just have it ever so slightly above, as long as you account for that in your overall measurements. But I just want to feel the very top of that cutter head over it. Once I have that set, I can lock this in place, and now I know it's going to cut the correct thickness for when I am done. From here, we can place our first piece on the jig. I'm going to loosen these up. You can slide these all the way back if you choose to use the guard. I'm going to turn this thing on. I'm going to use some opposing colored wood just because it always does a much better job of showing just how tight the joints are. So I've got some scrap cherry. I've got some walnut. You'll be able to see real well when I'm done. So now all I got to do, turn this thing on, make these cuts. Now, because we need to offset this piece, what you need to do is you pull this off, you flip it around, and you place it over the key just like that, because we obviously need the opposite for the other piece. So my first cut, instead of being the distance from the pin to the bit, we need to start it on the edge. So now I can turn my machine back on, make the first cut. Okay, so here are the two pieces, and these are pretty tight, not as tight as my first examples, but that's pretty good. I might like it to be a little bit looser, and so I'm going to show you how to go through the steps to change the fit. Now, here's why I want to discuss this, because these were some of my very early tests. When I did these, they were so tight that I can't even hardly get this thing apart. Now, you obviously don't want that with box joints. So let me show you how to go about adjusting it to get it dialed in to the perfect fit. And this is pretty dang close. I would be pretty happy with that, but it's still a little bit, maybe a little bit tighter than I would like. Now, when it comes to a box joint, there's one variable that you can control. That is the width of the fingers. By changing the width of the fingers for the box joint, you'll be able to get a looser or a tighter fit. Or if it's too tight and you need to make it the right size, you have to adjust this. The way that you adjust this is by either moving the bit closer to the pin that it's referencing or further away from the pin. Closer to the pin is going to give you more narrow fingers. Further away, it's going to give you wider, right? So if you need to go a little bit smaller, closer to the bit. If you need to go a little bit larger, further away from the bit. Now, why that's important is that if you're too loose, like you see here, it's not going to hold it in place, just going to fall out. Obviously, you need to change the size. The one thing that is a constant no matter what is in between the fingers, because that is dictated off of your bit. Can't change that unless you change the bit. When it comes to a fit of these, what you're looking for is the ability to put this together, hold it, and it doesn't fall apart, right? We're gonna adjust this closer to the pin ever so slightly. When I say ever so slightly, I mean like we're gonna test it at 3/1000ths of an inch using a feeler gauge. So what I'm gonna do is I've already got this locked down. I know that this is good. So a friend of mine was here and we were kind of brainstorming on how we could go about coming up with an easy way to make those little fine micro adjustments. There is no micro adjust on the machine. Maybe at some point they'll add one. But we need to adjust the position of this table ever so slightly. And I want to reiterate, this is a one-time deal. So I set this up, I do it, make a test cut, everything's good to go, I batch out my products. Moving forward, you could always set it up the way that I'm going to show you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put my feeler gauge touching the plate. This is just an extra TSO stop that I had, but it gives me a reference surface that I can butt this whole thing up against. So if I bring my feeler gauge here, slide it up so it's now pinching that, that's now tight in place, it's not gonna move. I'm gonna slide this over, making sure that it's touching my stop. Again, it was 3/1000ths of an inch, so it's not really gonna move. It's good to go, it's set. Let's do another test cut and see what we come up with. And that right there is the fit that I'm looking for. Stays together, gives plenty of space for the glue. It's not difficult to push together, kind of just snaps in place just by making the fingers a little bit smaller. But that is extremely accurate and no gaps that you see here. Slightly protruding, so when you sand everything smooth, turn out great. But that's the fit that I like right there. Now, just like that, you can have really, really, really nice, easy, effortless box joints. And a box joint or a finger joint, it's such a cool joint. It just adds that really nice look to something that you're making. Super easy to do, especially if you're trying to branch out from just doing standard butt joints or something like that. This is a great option, but maybe you don't want to work up into doing dovetails or go through all the headaches of setting that up. Great choice. One thing that I didn't even mention is with any jig, it's always a pain, like where am I going to keep this thing? One thing that I really like that they did is they made this so simple. Let's put this over here. If I loosen these knobs, I can slide this off and I can take this, there's a hole right at the top. If I wanted to hang it directly above my router table to get it out of the way and on the wall, you absolutely can. One other thing that I do want to point out, this is not necessarily about this, but the dust collection is really nice. I did get a little bit more chips thrown out based on the router bit that I was using when I used the 1/2" bit. I was using a compression bit when I was doing it because it was the only thing I had available. So because of the way that it evacuates the chips, it would kind of throw them on the table just a little bit. But the dust collection on this router table setup is fantastic, and it works really well with this. What you see here is what we have left. So really like this box joint jig. I used the Incra iBox for a long time, very complicated to set up. I have a video where I'm showing you how to do it with a miter gauge on a table saw. You could apply that same technique and logic to a router table, but I just think this is a really good jig. It's a brilliant way to utilize a router table. So if you already have a router table and you're looking for something that will help elevate the type of joinery that you do, I would 100% recommend checking out Jessem and giving it a try, because it is really, really nice and gives you great great results, super easy to set up, very user-friendly, really great product. I'll leave a link down below in the video description for anybody that might be interested to find out more information or purchase one for yourself. Now I'm gonna go because I got other things to do.